What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and if you're enjoying the content that I'm uploading onto my channel, then feel free to subscribe, and you can also offer suggestions on topics and characters and storylines and whatnot that we can have discussions on later on in this channel. Okay, so for a little while, we've been doing like Marvel versus DC in terms of like having characters fight each other, like, battles like who would win in this conflict or something like that. But what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna switch over to the Marvel versus DC line of comics. Now, these were a line of comics that were introduced in 1971, I think, and it was either with Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane or it was Superman's Spider-Man. I don't remember which one it was that started it off, but we're gonna wait until July when Spider-Man comes out to cover Superman Spider-Man, just because that makes the most sense. But because of the fact that you guys love Incredible Hulk so much, we're gonna cover Batman versus the Hulk. It's actually, well, really kind of goes back and forth. It's like Batman and the Hulk versus the Joker, and then there's a part where it's Batman and Joker versus the Hulk. It kind of goes back and forth. But Marvel and DC take a few liberties here. I mean, what they do really is they just kind of say, there is a shared universe. Now, this is why the Marvel and DC line of stories really stand apart from the mainline continuity stories from DC and Marvel. Because, normally speaking, under a normal set of circumstances, Marvel and DC they don't cross over. They're universes. No one can go from like Marvel to DC. Like right now, you will not see the Avengers, like all new, all different Avengers, cross over with DC Rebirth, unless they decide to do a crossover event, but there's no way for those universes to connect. However, between 1971 and 2004, with these, DC versus Marvel or DC special series, whatever it is that you want to call them, that was the case. It was basically this idea that there is a shared universe. Now, in terms of why this universe was shared, which fleshed out in the Marvel vs. DC 4-issue crossover, which I have here on my channel, which basically said that there were like these two gods, each one represented, the Marvel universe and the DC universe, and then, they basically had a big competition, that kind of thing. But this story basically just assumes that on Earth, Bruce Banner and, Batman and Spider-Man and Superman, all these superheroes all exist in the same space, in the same continuity, the same universe. Now, what this initially does is it picks up with Bruce Banner. And what Bruce Banner's basically working on here is a gamma gun. Now, of course, this gamma gun is designed by Wayne Enterprises, Wayne Research, for the purpose of curing disease. But for Bruce Banner, his idea is, hey, if this is a gamma gun, I can use this to basically eliminate the Incredible Hulk persona from myself. The problem with this is that in the middle of him working on this, everybody just starts laughing hysterically. Now, we find out the reason why is because the Joker's basically poisoned the environment with gas. Now, of course, Bruce Banner is able to get an oxygen suit on just in time in order to basically preserve himself. But while he's attacked by some of the Joker's goons, suddenly he just basically transforms into the Incredible Hulk. Now, going into the Incredible Hulk form, he basically starts ripping things up. Joker's kind of caught, not really surprised by this because, again, it's kind of a shared universe. So the Joker knows who the Hulk is. And that's why I say, Marvel and DC take liberties, because instead of the Joker being like, who is that guy? The Joker's like, that's the Hulk. I know who he is because I've seen him on TV or whatever the case may be. But while the Hulk's basically going through and running amok, we have the arrival of Batman. Now, Batman being here, again, is just par for the course. I mean, that's really how DC goes, right? Like, wherever the Joker is, Batman's not far behind. Like, he's on his trail. Now, this, again, is really, DC taking liberties because we as the comic book reader expect this to be the case, right? I mean, we look at the Joker and we say, the Joker is such a dangerous guy. He's so insane. He's so unpredictable that Batman will never let him stay on the streets for long. As soon as the Joker escapes, Batman's immediately trying to track him down, and he catches him, or at least tries to catch him, as soon as possible and throw him back in Arkham Asylum, because God only knows what scheme the Joker has, like copywriting fish. I want to do that story at some point. There was a story where the Joker's entire scheme was to make fish look like him and then copyright the fish so he could make money on copyrights. Steve Englehart Joker, his run lasted like 8 issues, and it was 8 of the greatest stories ever told when it came to the Joker. It was hilarious. Like, all the best Batman the Animated Series moments for the Joker were based on Steve Englehart Joker, just to give you guys an idea of where I'm coming from. But in any event, with Batman being here, of course, Batman's idea is to subdue the Joker, but this is where things get kind of intriguing here, because as for the Joker being a guy, we just kind of attribute him to being insane. I mean, it's almost like one of these things where it's like the Joker's smart, but it's like maybe he's a genius, maybe he's just crazy. It's kind of that weird middle ground. Now, if you actually go and read the old, what is it, Batman Black and White, I don't remember who it was that wrote that. I want to say it was Mark Waid, but I don't remember if that was the case. It actually toyed with the idea that the Joker is perfectly sane, but pretends to be insane to avoid, you know, the, I guess, real, you know, any real punishment for his crimes. It's actually a really, really cool story. But the Joker basically plays on the Incredible Hulk, because keep in mind, the Incredible Hulk is not the sharpest knife or the sharpest tool in the shed. He's basically kind of dumb here. And so because of that, the Joker's able to manipulate him by saying, hey, look, man, like, Batman is the one you want to go after. Like, Batman's the bad guy here. I'm in your corner. We're friends, right? Because remember, when it comes to the Incredible Hulk, if he runs up on somebody and starts attacking him and that person says, hey, I thought we were friends, the Hulk will stop. The Hulk will be like, we're friends? And you're like, yeah, Hulk, we're friends. And Hulk's like, yeah, we're friends. Now, woe betide you if you betray that friendship. But the Hulk will believe that you're friends. And so because of that, the Hulk doesn't, you know, the Hulk looks at the Joker and doesn't see the Joker as a guy who's untoward. Instead, he's just kind of like, Batman's the bad guy. So he immediately starts going after Batman. Now, this is when things get cool, because when this story first popped up, it was like the answer to the question that everybody wanted, right? Like, who would win in a fight, Batman or the Incredible Hulk? Like, you have basically unlimited strength going against extreme intelligence. And so the idea was like, who's going to pull this off? Like, who's going to be able to effectively get the upper hand here? Well, it's Batman. Not only that, Batman kicks his ass. Like, I mean, he wrecks him. There is a point where his back's almost broken. But this is kind of the cool thing here, is because keep in mind, for Batman, he's not fighting, you know, no holds barred. I mean, he is to a degree. You know, he is fighting no holds barred to an extent, but it's also the idea that the Incredible Hulk is Bruce Banner. He's a regular guy. Remember, Batman also doesn't kill either, so it's not like he's trying to kill the Incredible Hulk, he's just trying to subdue him. Now, the other half of this, though, is that the Incredible Hulk is just strength. I mean, it's just pure, raw strength. Unless we're talking about like Worldbreaker Hulk, or unless we're talking about Professor Hulk, where he has some measure of Bruce Banner's brain, for the most part, this is just Savage Hulk. You know, Savage Hulk just run around and smash things. That's really all he wants to do. That's the only thing he cares about. And so it's basically, you know, it's brains versus brawn here. And so really the victory of Batman in this scenario just comes down to intelligence. It just comes down to him being able to outmaneuver the Incredible Hulk, to outthink the Incredible Hulk, you know, and really that's just about it. Now, in the midst of this, the Joker basically makes his getaway. He effectively bails out. The problem with this is that in bailing out, you know, Bruce Banner begins to kind of revert back to his human form, while, you know, Bruce Wayne goes back to his normal, you know, or I guess Batman goes back to his Bruce Wayne persona and begins speaking with Bruce Banner. Now, in terms of why it is the Joker had launched this campaign in the first place, we didn't really know why the Joker was going after the Gamma Bomb. Maybe it was because, you know, the Joker's just a bad guy and he does bad things. But this is actually dealing directly with a guy called the Shaper of Worlds. Now, unless you're a huge fan of Marvel Comics and have read into a lot of the history, especially the Marvel cosmology, you wouldn't know who the Shaper of Worlds is. So here's the way this works. Here's this guy. So bear with me for a second, because this requires a little bit of exposition. But in Marvel Comics, we have what are called cosmic cubes. And cosmic cubes are basically just a fraction of the power of the Beyonders confined into a cube. Now, different universes have different forms. Like, not all universes have a cube. Some universes have a circle, you know, a sphere. Some universes might have a different shape. They all take, you know, different forms. Some might have diamonds, whatever. In the main Marvel universe, it's a cube. What had happened was a race called the Skrulls, which are, you know, well known for their ability to shapeshift, had basically learned about the nature of cosmic cubes, that with the power of the Beyonders, they were essentially wishing boxes. I mean, anybody that possessed a cosmic cube could do whatever they wanted to. They could bend the laws of physics, they could break the laws of reality, they can make anything they want come into fruition. When the Skrulls created a cosmic cube, their emperor got a hold of one and basically began to lose his mind. The problem with this was that the cosmic cube began to develop sentience. And so the cosmic cube basically took the personality of the emperor and, you know, imprinted it onto itself and then became maniacal. The caveat to this is that because the Shaper of Worlds is basically a cosmic cube, cosmic cubes are something that only do what they're told. they are, you know, they have no imagination, they have no ingenuity. They literally exist at the behest of their creator, and so, or I guess their wielder. So because of this, the Shaper of Worlds can warp reality on a universal scale, but he requires the experience, the desire, the dreams, ambitions of other people in order to pull it off. It's basically the equivalent of somebody saying, here's what you do. And so the Shaper of Worlds has to tap into people. What's basically happened in this story is the Shaper of Worlds powers are starting to run amok to the point that it's beginning to lose itself. It's beginning to go insane. And so the idea is to basically use this gamma gun on the Shaper of Worlds for the purpose of restoring his sanity, bolstering his powers back, which he basically promised to the Joker if Joker was willing to help him, that the Shaper of Worlds would bestow upon Joker absolute power. Now, it's entirely possible for the Shaper of Worlds to do this. Remember, it's a cosmic cube. And so the Shaper of Worlds can just say, I grant you omnipotence equal to me, or maybe a little bit less powerful than me. But it would basically give Joker the ability to do whatever he wants to. This is kind of a cool thing because stories like this, really this story in particular, kind of set the stage for Emperor Joker, which was actually a really cool story revolving the Joker getting the powers of Mr. Mxyzptlk. But transitioning back to Batman, remember, he's basically on the trail of the Joker. He's trying to find out where the Joker's going, what it is that the Joker's doing. Now, in a lot of ways, he had to play dumb when it came to Bruce Banner. You know, he had to sit down and say, hey man, what were you working on here? And Bruce Banner was like, well, you know, I'm working on a gamma gun that's supposed to be able to cure disease, but it might be able to cure me of the Incredible Hulk. You know, and so this is when Bruce Wayne begins to realize, or Batman begins to realize, just how dangerous the gamma gun is in the wrong hands. Now, while Batman's out on his search for the purpose of trying to find the Joker, because of the fact that the gamma gun didn't work when it came to the Shaper of Worlds, the Shaper of Worlds sent the Joker out and said, go find Bruce Banner, bring me Bruce Banner, so that Bruce Banner can work on this machine and get it working the way it needs to. Now, of course, the Joker sends out henchmen who basically infiltrate the military. They basically, you know, arrive to Bruce Banner posing as generals. Bruce Banner realizes what's going on and transforms into the Hulk again. Now, this is when the power of the Shaper of Worlds comes into fruition, in the sense that with the generals, with these guys in the military basically trying to subdue the Hulk, but failing to do so, one of the guys basically thinks, you know, hey, it'd be awesome if we had a monster that could basically combat the Hulk. And then right on cue, the Shaper of Worlds creates a monster. That's what the Shaper of Worlds does. The Shaper of Worlds feeds on the imagination, on the ingenuity, on the wants, desires, dreams, nightmares of all sentient beings in existence. And so because of this giant monster is able to fight the Hulk, but it's really more of an absorbing monster in the sense that it basically absorbs the Hulk into itself and imprisons the Hulk, and then takes him off to meet the Shaper of Worlds. Now, of course, when the Incredible Hulk arrives here, the Shaper of Worlds' initial reaction is, hey, if we have Bruce Banner can work on this gamma gun, he can fix it, he can basically restore me to my normal self. But with the arrival of the Incredible Hulk just permeates gamma radiation. And so why do you need a gamma gun when you literally have gamma radiation incarnate in the form of the Incredible Hulk? And so because of this, the Shaper of Worlds sits down and says, well, hey, like, I mean, we'll just use the Incredible Hulk. Like, we'll literally just siphon off his energy and we'll use him for the purpose of, you know, restoring my powers and setting me back to sanity. But again, you know, the Shaper of Worlds needs to basically kind of absorb the energy that Banner, or I guess the Incredible Hulk, lets off. And the Incredible Hulk only begins letting off energy like crazy when he's in an enraged state, when he's fighting things, when he's punching things. And so because of this, the Shaper of Worlds basically manifests a multitude of villains for, you know, the Incredible Hulk to go against, after which, you know, the Incredible Hulk begins swatting away, begins attacking. But again, you know, the Shaper of Worlds powers are restored to a degree, but in the midst of all this, the Incredible Hulk's like, you know what, I'm out of here. Like, I've had enough of this. Now, in terms of why this little bit of a transition came, in truth, it was probably just kind of forced. It was probably just the idea that the story's got to go somewhere. And so with that being said, the Joker comes to the realization that he's got to find a way to get the Incredible Hulk back. The issue with this is that the Incredible Hulk keeps tearing through all of his forces. And this is kind of cool because this is Joker thinking things out. I mean, this is Joker planning ahead. We always assume that he does. Like, we always assume the Joker kind of has a plan. That was one of the reasons why Scott Snyder's Joker was so cool, because it was this idea that he had a great big huge scheme. He had a huge plan that he was playing to its full fruition. The question was, what is the full fruition? You know, where does this whole thing go? How does it all come together? but by calling in Batman, he basically says, hey, look, the Incredible Hulk is running amok in Gotham City, man. We gotta reel him in. We gotta find some way to bring him in, and we gotta get him back to normal. We gotta get him working, get Banner back to his normal self, and effectively get him out of here. And so because of that, at this moment, Batman's really more concerned about getting, the Incredible Hulk away, getting the Incredible Hulk gone out of Gotham City than having him there, because right now he's just going through and just wrecking stuff, just attacking things. Because remember, this is Savage Hulk. He says he wants to be left alone, but at every turn, there's guys running up on him, trying to attack him, criminals, so on and so forth. And so with the Joker and Batman working together, the initial idea is that Batman will basically follow him around, try to subdue him through normal means. But because of the fact that the Incredible Hulk, fights violence with violence, Batman comes to the realization that this is not going to work. And this is kind of the cool thing, is because with Batman being so smart, our initial idea would be, well, hey, he would have to recognize what the Incredible Hulk is, right? I mean, in the first encounter, he'd have to recognize the Incredible Hulk, at least Savage Hulk, is, all strength and almost no brains. But it didn't seem to be something that he picked up. But he ends up picking that up after this discussion. He ends up picking, or I guess after this conflict. Again, with their second battle, the Incredible Hulk almost kills Bruce Wayne. He almost kills Batman. And so in the midst of all this, Batman and Joker come to the realization that instead they're going to have to use more, more nuanced tactics. They're going to have to be a lot more subversive than they've been before. And so what happens is, while the Incredible Hulk is roaming around, Bruce Wayne actually dresses up as an old man and just says, hey, what's going on? Young whippersnapper, I'm a blind man, and we're friends. And so because of this, the Incredible Hulk, basically kind of looks at him and says, yeah, man, we're friends. I just want to be left alone, and people keep attacking me and coming after me. And so, he says, well, the old man, Bruce Wayne says, hey, you should go with the pale skinned man. You should go with the Joker. Go with him, go wherever it is that he takes you, because he will take you out of Gotham City, and that's all that I care about. And so, of course, again, this is revealed to us to actually be Batman. But with the return of the Incredible Hulk, again, being taken back to the Shaper of Worlds, Batman also comes to the realization of what the Joker's scheme is. That, again, the Joker's scheme is to basically gain absolute power here. And so because of that, Batman comes to the realization that, hey, I got to step in. We got to keep this from happening. Now, this is when we began to switch to almost a total 180. And it's really like a Batman Incredible Hulk team up. The kicker about all this is that the Shaper of Worlds is using his power to basically manipulate reality. And so all these major foes of Batman, of the Incredible Hulk, begin cropping up. Two-Face, Rhino, all these different guys who are super strong or who are major foes crop up and begin attacking each and every one of them. But again, they're all basically able to overpower this. But in the midst of this conflict, because of the fact that, again, the Shaper of Worlds requires gamma radiation from the Incredible Hulk, and the only way to gain this is by the Incredible Hulk running around fighting and punching, the Shaper of Worlds is basically able to gain the power that he seeks. He's able to gain the abilities, or I guess, gain a restoration of his own power. And because of this, he sits down and he says, okay, Joker, I will grant you omnipotence. I will grant you the absolute power that I told you I would give you if you help to return my abilities. Now, of course, with these absolute powers to do basically anything he wants, to warp reality in any form or fashion that he chooses, this basically just results in him doing exactly what we would expect, with him turning Gotham City into an absolute madhouse. Now, with regards to the Incredible Hulk and Batman, this is, again, a continued team up. But the funny thing about this is that the Joker, the two of them going against the Joker is almost pointless. It's almost a throwback to the Captain Britain versus Mad Jim Jaspers story, where, Captain Britain showed up and he was like, Mad Jim Jaspers, I'm going to defeat you. And then Mad Jim Jaspers kept warping reality. In one moment, Captain Britain was a schoolboy in a school, and the next moment he was a fish in a tank. I mean, it was just warping reality, and Captain Britain actually, really had no recourse to what it is that was happening, because how can you beat someone if they can just alter the molecular structure of matter around you? And that's exactly what's happening with the Joker. The Joker's turning, Batman into a clown. He's turning the Incredible Hulk into a clown. He's turning the entire situation into Alice in Wonderland. Now, the reason why these things are being done is because Bruce Wayne is leading him to a certain point. Bruce Wayne keeps manipulating the Joker, saying, hey, I thought you'd do better than this. All you're doing is your archetypical stuff. You're just making clown-themed, things. You're doing, Alice in Wonderland-themed stuff. This isn't great. This isn't, huge. It's not bravado. It's not grandiose. This is a momentary thing that anybody could have done. So he says, hey, be more of an artist. Make everything that ever has been, that is, and ever will be. Now, because of the fact that it's basically creating the past, present, and future all at a single point in time, that's not possible. It's not within the powers of the Joker to pull that off because of the fact that it requires basically melding a multitude of universes and points in time together. It's taking the entire history of the universe and the multiverse itself, condensing it down into a singular point, all coexisting at the same time. It's basically taking a guy with universal power and trying to get him to control the multiverse. Because of this, it basically causes the Joker's powers to run absolute awry to the point that it basically sends him into a catatonic state. He essentially loses his mind. I guess even more so than he did before. His brain just shuts down. And so because of all this, the Shaper of Worlds just kind of bails out, and the story essentially wraps up with Bruce Banner, of course, or I guess the Incredible Hulk reverting back to his Bruce Banner form, continuing his mission to try to find a way to cure himself of the Incredible Hulk persona, as well as Batman saying, well, the Joker's here, he's locked up for right now. His powers are gone. He's lost the ability to manipulate reality on a universal scale, and so he's back to his normal self. And it's really just, again, Marvel and DC saying, and the show goes on, and the story goes on. The life of Batman in Gotham City, the life of Bruce Banner, presumably heading back to to this section of the world, wherever it is that he's at, New York or what have you. But again, these are all just one-offs. These are just one-shots. The stories just kind of end, and we may or may not see a follow-up to it somewhere along the line. But if you guys are new here to Comics Explained, you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, and leave a comment down below. Let me know how you guys feel about these Marvel vs. DC stories, because I think the stories are actually pretty intriguing, to be honest, because it gives us, team-ups, and it gives us fights that we wouldn't normally see, which is actually kind of cool. The Batman, God, I want to say it's Batman and Spider-Man versus Carnage and Joker. That is a really, really cool one. That one's pretty badass. But in any event, yeah, guys, we're going to go ahead and bring this video to an end, and I will catch you all later. Peace.